Cafe. Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 2052, Mike Matthews. This is the longest running podcast in the world.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like it is, doesn't it? Especially if you do a show daily, wouldn't it be the longest show? Well, I can say that I can't come up with a song for today's show. I'm not very musical today. It's just too much going on. Too much has been in my mind lately. I could have...
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I really could have done a podcast yesterday, but there was this lot of just...
Mike's
noise.
Daily.
You know what I mean?
Podcast.
Just noise that...
Yeah!
really got to me, and it got to a point where I'm like, I can't podcast, I can't talk. I basically cannot speak. I am dumbfounded, in a state of being dumb by the world, by our president, by the people in power, and the people that were rebelling. That, you know, I mean, it became clear after a while that the protests that turned ugly, a lot of that was people out of town taking advantage of a situation. And then our president made some foolish moves that, even if you are a follower of the president, as my mom is, a strong supporter of Trump, she was like, he just needs to shut up. He needs to be quiet. Well, Stephen Colbert, I'm not going to say any more about it, but Stephen Colbert summed it up perfectly on Monday's show and Tuesday's show of his, what's now called, instead of The Late Show, it's called A Late Show with Stephen at Home, or something to that effect. And he put it perfectly. And all these artists or people that talk for a living, people that, I guess they are artists, some of them. All these camera people, these people in front of cameras.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Speaking of cameras, speaking of pictures, it's a picture of me on a nice walk last week in Podcastro Valley. And I was looking like I was about to eat one of those. I think that's a cattail. They're springing up everywhere, all over Podcastro Valley. And so I thought I'd play around with it. And recently, I bought corn. Safeway had this deal. Hey, welcome to the podcast where I talk about great grocery store deals. You can, everything that's on sale, you'll find out here at Mike's Daily Podcast. There's, at Safeway, our local grocery store, your local grocery store might be Publix or Kroger or Piggly Wiggly. Or Basil's like, get to the point, Mike. Okay. Yes, Basil, I'm getting to it. Corn. A whole bunch of corn, like, on sale. So I had to buy a bunch. I know it's not the best stuff for you, Basil. It's mostly starch. And when you load it up with butter, you've just made it not the best thing for you to eat, really. Don Henley. Oh, I almost derailed myself and went on a Don Henley talk, because Don Henley did something, I think this was yesterday. But before I wrap that all up, is that I was about to eat this thing on the trail. And you can see that picture at MikesDailyPodcast.com. There you go, the podcast picture. Don Henley is complaining about not getting enough money, or artists not getting enough money. I don't know, some kind of copyright thing. It's old, it's ancient, this copyright law. I'm not getting residuals from all my Eagles songs. I don't know. Maybe he was saying he doesn't need residuals anymore. Maybe he was saying something really to help the struggling artists. Back to the whole topic of artists and Stephen Colbert. It was rather funny what he had to say. And a lot of these people that perform now on the TV, they have to do it from home. And it's all looking like YouTube videos that we saw before the coronavirus hit. People that did their little video cast from home. Stephen Colbert's doing it at home. Nice piece of furniture. He's got a flat screen TV showing the logo for his show in the background. And he just talks very matter-of-factly and doesn't stumble at all. They don't have to edit him at all. It ain't easy. If you've ever tried to do a video to upload to YouTube, you often make mistakes, and that's why most of those YouTube channels feature people that are jump cutting like crazy because they're editing out all the flubs they do. And he spoke very clearly and made very pointed jokes, but very truthy about the whole thing that's going on. Like, why do you put tear gas in front of the White House to clear a way for the president? It is weird. And I've been in that square, and I was looking at pictures recently of a trip I took, and I posted some podcast pictures within the past couple of weeks and past couple of shows of that area in front of the White House. I think on the opposite side of the White House, there's the ellipsis. Is it called the ellipsis? That big green area, big park. And then that leads into the Washington Monument. Washington, D.C. has some, if you've never been, don't go now. As I mentioned in a previous show, don't go now. But yeah, it has a lot of neat things to see. And in front of the White House on the opposite side, that's that Lafayette Square and all that. I stayed at a W hotel near there 9 years ago. And there, I used points, by the way. I had the American Express SPG, what's that hotel chain? Star Preferred something. So all the points that I got, I turned them in for a couple nights stay in Washington, D.C. It was a fun trip. Aw, trips. I'd like to do that again soon. Go on a trip. It's been so long. It's been so long that I look at pictures of trips I took in the past to enjoy taking a trip in my mind hole, to go on a little vacation. But that in front of the White House, there's a little tent that's all decrepit and raggedy with a bunch of literature that they put in little plastic, sealed off so the paper doesn't get wet because it rains a lot in D.C. It's humid. And there's a little tent there, and it's supposed to be that to remind all the presidents not to use any nukes. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Say no to nuclear weapons, which I think we can all agree with. But that square, then behind that, so that's like practically right in front of the White House. Then there's this plaza. I think that's how it goes, if memory serves. And that's where all this happened with the tear gas as the president was walking over to that Episcopal church, that famous church, the historical church. We mentioned a little bit about what happened there. You know about it with the recent protests that got some damage. So it's all, I don't know how you defend that. I mean, even if you're saying the protests need to not protest, you have to have, I think it was perfectly said that what was the saying Kennedy said about if you have no way to demonstrate, then you'll have a country that falls apart, basically. And yeah, I agree. We have to stop the vans going into Union City with people that are going to start to loot. The looting's bad. Okay? I think we could all agree with that. This is the part of the podcast where I shut up. Because anything I add, you've heard a million times, and you feel a million ways, and it's just nothing else to say about it. But anywho, on to other things. So how have I been dealing with this? I've been trying to listen to everybody. All the sides, not just one side. Because you can get a little, I mean, if you get all the information, like, for example, I'm really glad finally today, of all days, it took them long enough, they've now charged the other officers that were there when Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. I mean, why weren't they helping out? A part of me wants to say the people that were videoing, why didn't they help out? But I mean, you can't at that point. I know people have been in situations like that where the police they've got the upper hand, something bad's going down, and all you can do is film it. But yeah, it was, why weren't these other officers, charged earlier? It's finally things are moving at such a slow pace, and this could have maybe a lot more demonstrations could have been avoided had things moved a little faster. So it's just I don't like the whole. There's no. I mean, the fact that Stephen Colbert and some of the other late night talk show hosts have been able to find anything humorous about this. It's a kind of humor you can laugh at, but you don't feel good about, because it's also there's something really dark and horrible behind it all. I mean, we can laugh about the president, but that's our president. What else? I mean, it's weird. It's weird to find the humor in these times. So that's why I didn't podcast the past couple of days. And my own personal life, I mean, I made sun tea yesterday. It was so hot in the Bay Area. I grabbed a bunch of tea bags, and that's just the funniest word ever, isn't it? Tea bag. I'm not going to go into why, but there's tea, and they put it in a bag, and that's how you make tea. And the steep, I like the word steep. That's the thing I like when things steep. So what you do is you steep your tea bags in some water in a clear vase, pitcher of some sort, and get that nice and hot in the sunlight, as we had a really hot day yesterday and today, and you get some nice sun tea going, and then you drink it while watching Napoleon Dynamite. And I hadn't seen that movie in so long, and I was just I need some time to laugh in these sad times. I need some time to. And luckily, I have a lovely lady friend. I have a friend that is there with me, chuckling along. And I don't know. I don't think there's a better therapy on this planet. That is just the best thing right there. And you need that. You need that. Now more than ever, you need your friends. Positive friends. And I've said it from the very beginning, from when I first met my lovely lady friend, is that she's such a positive person. You need positive people you need positive things in your life in these dark times. Castro Valley did have a demonstration on Monday. We have a little protest area in Podcastro Valley right there at the corner of Castro Valley Boulevard and Redwood Road. And oftentimes, even when it's not as tense times as it is today, there are people protesting either the president or the list goes on and on. And so that was bound to happen. It happened on Monday. It was loud, but as far as I know, nothing got broken. And that's important. On my drive to Fremont yesterday, there was I kept an eye out for anything that was broken or shattered or defaced, vandalized. And all I saw was that CVS pharmacy. I think something really bad happened there over the weekend. I think there was a shooting. And then there was also... So that had some boarded up windows, and there was some boarded up windows over by, I think it's called Franny's. It's a Chinese food place. And there's like a car stereo installation place next door that had their windows all boarded up, but they were still open for business. And then there's Kmart. Yes, there's actually a Kmart that still exists, but it's closed. It's been closed for several months. It's just a horrible, gigantic eyesore. And when I drive past that, I always shake my head. How on earth this needs to go? And Hayward's pretty smart about some places that are eyesores. There was this strip mall that had long since fallen apart, been defaced. Actually, one part of it burned down. And it's now gone, and there are condos there now. And you may say condos replacing a burnt-out strip mall. I guess that's called, replacing the same with the same. It's a wash. But it's a little bit better to look at least. As I drove on my way to Fremont, that was really the only thing I saw that caught my eye. Oh, and that Holiday House is falling apart, but that's been falling apart for a long time. An old bowling alley, that was closed when I got here to the Bay Area over 10 years ago. It's been falling apart forever. The Holiday House, that needs to go too. Why that still exists is a question for Hayward. At any rate, that's what when I was in Fremont yesterday, there was talk of a demonstration happening over by City Hall. I heard that happened, but there's a guy I work with who I like to say his middle name is Panic Button because he always warns people like, panic, warning, warning. Will Robinson, danger Will Robinson, all the time. He's like, watch out. And everybody, it's like the sky is falling constantly with him. So I always take what he says with a grain of salt. Do you remember when all of our information got hacked? That some kind of credit company got all our information got leaked out, and they were saying you need to go to this website and enter your social security number to see if you've been hacked. And he comes in to my office and basically demands, right now, put your information in right now, like orders me. And I said, no. I talked about this on my podcast years ago when this happened. People like that need to just back up. This is America. And yes, you can tell me there's a curfew and I have to be inside by 8 o'clock, 8 till 5. I understand that. And I understand I need to shelter in place till TFN. But do not order me to enter my social security number. That's wrong way. Is the way you're rubbing me there. So, at any rate, people, you just take it with a grain of salt when some people are just screaming that, but then when you gotta run and take shelter. I understand that too. I think. Hey, look who's out here at Cafe Anyway. It's somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Hello, Michael Master. It's Madame Rootabega, and I made you a delicious, huge glass of sun tea. Ooh. You're basically pouring me a glass of the sun tea I made yesterday. Yes. And it's a sun tea that I had to put tea bags in order to make. Yes. Do you want some? No. Oh. Look who else is here. Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant. And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? Mike, can I have some of that sun tea there? Yeah. Go for it. What do you put into the tea there, Mike? Water. What's the other thing? The love. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Do you know that? Thanks, guys. All right, next show it'll be the wonderful Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer. What do you think about all this? Do I dare ask? You can call me 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast will try to be yet again, or yet again, or however way you want to say that. But oh, hey, I forgot the Bangles put out an album. What year was this? I don't know why all my CDs are outside a cafe anyway. It's too hot. These CDs are going to get scalded alive. They put out a 15-song CD. None of these were greatest hits. They were all brand new songs. What year was this? Of course, the writing is minuscule. But the album, you can look it up, was called Doll Revolution. I forgot. That looks like it was like the early 2000s. Bangles. Susanna Hoffs recently singing with Billie Joe Armstrong of Green Day as Billie covered her song Manic Monday. Well, actually, she made it famous. Prince wrote it. Prince wrote it for Susanna Hoffs. And neither Billie or Susanna have aged at all. It's amazing. They don't age. And that video was put up, I guess, about 2 months ago. It was fun to watch them. Kind of a more rocked out version. Billie is singing as Susanna's rocking out on the guitar. That's good stuff. Okay, that's what we need is more of the good stuff. The Napoleon Dynamite, the Uncle Rico, the Kip, and Tina, Tina the llama. Oh, gosh, I want a llama. Those fuzzy ears. Greatest animals ever. Come on, Tina, eat your dinner, you stupid turd. Is that what he says? Something to that. I can't ever remember lines from movies. If I did, I'd be the funnest person ever. Because it's always that guy who can remember clips from movies and TV shows. That's the funniest one. Hey, look at Todd. Todd knows all the lines from every Eddie Murphy movie. Quote them, Todd. Todd. It's always some guy named Todd, too. And then they'll quote a line from a movie that I don't know, and they're like, you've never seen that movie? Oh, you got to see that movie. I will. I'll get around to it eventually. And by eventually, I mean never. Thank you for listening to the show. 336MM Daily, 3 + 3 = 6. MM is in Mike Matthews. Daily is in what this podcast hopefully we'll try to keep doing. Keep safe. Thanks for listening.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!